With CPI trending between 3.1% and 3.7%, are wages following suit? The answer is no. I'm Sam Kimball, Chief Operation Officer for Workforce Delivery Inc. We are an Indigenous owned and operated human resources and labor relations firm working primarily out of Western Canada. Today we discuss trends we see with wages and CPI, primarily in Alberta, but the trends are similar in other prairie jurisdictions. We are in a time that is fair to characterize as not business as usual. We are still in a pandemic, and we are very much in an energy transition. Coal industries, both metallurgical for making steel and thermal coal associated with power generation, are being shut down. Various groups and governments suppress the oil industry, leading to increased prices and reliance on imported supply. With coal mines shut down and oil sands jobs destroyed, natural gas plants are the next target. And natural gas is touted by many as being a necessary energy transition fuel, which is a good thing. Yet job creators and working families involved in that industry will operate from a precarious position. We find ourselves in the middle of significant job disruption, and this and other factors increase the cost of living, distort the labor market, as working families get displaced from careers without careers to replace them. This increases social harm, with families coping with despair, suicide rates increasing, and addiction and mental health concerns on the rise. Energy transitions too abrupt or without compassion bring with them serious consequences. Meanwhile, the cost of living is also in a place of disruption. CPI is trending between 3.1% and 3.7% year over year over multiple months of measurement. Drivers of the high CPI are not, in this instance, simply a reflection of a natural and healthy economic gain. Other things are also at play. Increased government debt resulting from record spending and a cash injection from the Bank of Canada drives inflation. Housing, passenger vehicles, heating, food, grocery costs, gas, furniture, due in part to the energy transition pressures, also have an effect. And yes, there's a temporary spike or buildup in travel and services demanded, as momentarily most economies in Canada opened up with little to no restrictions. While that may account for a slight increase in the cost of living, spending on durable household goods maintained during the pandemic offsets this, as that spending will slow in the short to medium term projections. So increases in the cost of living have to do with increased government spending and monetary policy, increased costs associated with energy transition, and pandemic recovery adjustments to consumer behavior, not as a result of the general health, stability, and growth of the economy. The labor market is sluggish, and there is a lag in response to job advertisements. What's more, job creators remain in a precarious position, more so in many cases because of energy transition forces than the pandemic itself. Even so, bankruptcies are a lagging indicator and are up 133% in Alberta year over year, which is more directly related to the pandemic itself. Some of the increased bankruptcies is due to a catch-up of the reduced rate of bankruptcies that occurred during the pandemic itself, as certain zombie companies, otherwise inviable, were artificially propped up by government support programs. Many pundits characterize the increased numbers of employees quitting currently as a sign of some significant, profound social movement. But like bankruptcies, which were at an all-time low, quits were also at a low during 2020. People weren't quitting during the shutdowns, especially if being paid to stay at home. With typical turnover rates reduced during 2020, increased quits today are in part a reflection of a buildup of deferred decisions rather than some profound change in the social order. We see a shortage of jobs suitable for displaced people, creating distortion and a shortage of jobs and people. Now we can talk about wages. In Alberta, wage rates, not earnings, wage rates, year over year were reduced by negative 4.1%. If we take out the effect of the part-time work surge, which drew down the average, the year-over-year change in wage rates is still about negative 1.1% to negative 1.4%, which trended over multiple months of measurements. Average wage settlements in the private sector is 1.25% in 2020, 1.17% in 2021, 0.99% in 2022, and 1.72% in 2023. These numbers are also inflated, as agreements negotiated pre-pandemic settled at higher rates than those settled after 2020, and post-pandemic settlements properly trend closer to zero wage increases. So CPI and wages are delinked for the time being, and we expect this to continue for the next 2 to 3 years. CPI is inflated due to disruptions in energy transition, increased government spending and cash injections from the Bank of Canada, and pandemic shifts, all of which increase risk for employers and do not translate to job creators being able to afford increased wages for employees. Thank you for your time and attention today. This is Sam Kimball, signing off.